Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tele-ABA versus in-person ABA debate. My name is Mary, and I will be one of the moderators for this debate. The others participating in this debate are Esmeralda, our second moderator, Min, and Courtney, who are pro-tele-ABA, along with Caitlin and Jessica, who will be attacking tele-ABA with in-person ABA. I will start us off by giving some information about choosing a treatment plan, about tele-ABA and in-person ABA. People diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, along with their caretakers, must look at the pros and cons concerning treatment methods. When considering a treatment method, one of the first questions, besides effectiveness of the intervention, should be concerning whether or not to gain education and treatment through technology or gain that information through in-person. These two methods are commonly known as tele-ABA and in-person ABA. Tele-ABA involves sharing video or audio information, communicating with a behavioral analyst or BCBA over Skype, FaceTime, or other video chat methods. Tele-ABA also involves educational videos on how to gain knowledge, understanding, and treatment implementation for caregivers. Even though tele-ABA is a great method, it can be debated on if these educational videos are done ethically to ensure clients are getting the best treatment available. Even though tele-ABA rings true to the term convenience, one must be careful to abide by HIPAA values along with the BCBA ethical standards. It is our job as behavioral analysts to make sure clients are given the best treatment available and to make sure the people implementing these treatments are able to implement them successfully. When looking at in-person ABA, it has been proven to be a successful model for decreasing problem behaviors. In-person ABA implements B.F. Skinner's experimental analysis for behavior. By implementing in-person ABA, communication and control over extraneous variables and behavioral programs, along with abiding by ethical standards and HIPAA laws, can more easily be done than using tele-ABA. The current argument will show both the pros and cons to tele-ABA, along with in-person ABA and the hurdles that may be needed to overcome in order to have an effective treatment plan for those diagnosed with autism. Min, can you start us off and share what makes tele-ABA more convenient than in-person ABA? And what are the privacy issues when considering that method?
Sure, Mary. Well, tele-ABA is an emerging model of intervention that has many advantages when compared to in-home delivery model. I will elaborate on tele-ABA's potential to increase access to intervention at a reduced cost, especially for those living in rural or underserved areas. With the prevalence rate of ASD increasing in recent years, according to Kohler, 1999, who examined the services received by children with autism and their families, 40% of children with ASD have problems accessing their desired intervention. This difficulty is compounded for those living in remote or underserved areas. I'm going to show you figure 1. A study by Diokan in 2016 on BAC-based certifications trends showed that even though there's a growth of BCBAs from 1999 to 2014, there is an uneven distribution across states, with some being more underserved than others. Tele-ABA is thus a potential solution to provide access to intervention to those living in underserved areas. The cost of intervention for ASD is a heavy financial burden for many families. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in 2016, in addition to medical costs, intensive behavioral intervention for children with ASD costs $40,000 to $60,000 per child per year. While overall ABA cost is high, recent reports and articles show that tele-ABA is more cost-efficient than in-home ABA. In addition, payers such as Medicaid, Medicare, and IDEA Part C, which is Early Intervention for Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, all appear to provide reimbursements for tele-ABA. Now I'm going to show you figure 2. A study by Kaysen in 2012 demonstrates that prevalence of telehealth in IDEA Part C services. Of all the representatives from 26 states and 1 jurisdiction, 30% indicated that they were either using telehealth or planning to use telehealth within the next 1 to 2 years. He also discussed the increase of reimbursement for telehealth with Part C and Medicaid. Well, furthermore, to look at figure 3, the National Conference of State Legislatures in 2016 provided a map demonstrating more than 48 states that provide some type of Medicaid reimbursement for telehealth. Well, next we'll go on to figure 4. A study conducted by Wecker in 2016 showed that telehealth was more time efficient than home health. Telehealth clinician, parent, and assistant's total time was 4 hours versus 9 hours for home health. He also compared weekly costs with telehealth costing $58 versus home health costing $335. The cost comparison included functional analysis, therapy and transport costs, and clinician's time. Wecker proved that telehealth was able to identify functions of problem behaviors just as well as home health. Now, next, we'll go on to figure 5. This is a more recent study by Lindgren in 2016, comparing the cost of functional analysis and functional communication training across in-home therapy, clinic-based telehealth, and home-based telehealth. The cost included staff costs with mileage for visits, facility costs for teleconference, and family costs to include computer hardware. The study concluded that home-based telehealth was the most cost-effective, with no significant difference in behavior outcomes across the clients. The cost estimated in home-based telehealth was $150. Clinic-based telehealth was about $210, and in-home telehealth was $270. Therefore, delivering tele-ABA in accordance to compliance is in accordance to the Compliance Code 2.09a and 2.09c, as it provides the clients a right to effective treatment through minimizing geographical barriers and through looking at a cost-benefit analysis. Tele-ABA is found to be a more cost-effective option than in-home therapy. However, other than cost and accessibility, we need to look at the area of confidentiality, client privacy, and data security. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, HIPAA, is a federal mandate that seeks to ensure privacy of information transmitted electronically by requiring safeguards. With the HIPAA privacy and security regulations in place, it is thus viable that tele-ABA is provided with confidentiality, client privacy, and data security. According to Luxton, Kale, and Mishkind in 2012, service providers of tele-ABA can use data encryption and virtual private network (VPN) with authentication and access control mechanisms to restrict unauthorized access of information. According to Boisvert, Adrianopoulos, and Callas 2012, computers and laptops used for tele-ABA should be installed with a secure firewall and up-to-date antivirus software to prevent a virus attack. All service providers in tele-ABA should be trained in security protocols such as password management, information management, and computer monitor placement to protect privacy of clients. These security measures will seek to adhere to the Compliance Code of 2.06a, whereby confidentiality is maintained. Also, Code 2.07a and 2.07b can be adhered to when records are maintained in confidentiality when creating, storing, accessing, and transferring them in accordance to the code. Well, to manage security risks, Denton and Gladstone in 2005 has suggested that informed consent should be obtained from the caregiver, that the service provider of tele-ABA has informed them about the risks and benefits of using tele-ABA and the differences between tele-ABA and in-home services. In doing so, service providers will adhere to the Compliance Code 8.05a, whereby the behavior analysts acknowledge the security and limitations of the electronic media. That's all I have.
Thank you so much for sharing, Min. I would like to pass it over to Jessica, who will talk about how in-person ABA may be a better choice.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Min, for sharing those great points. So although tele-ABA proves to be cost efficient and reimbursement by public payers provides stability, we face a challenge with third-party reimbursement. According to Baker and Bufka 2011, some states do not mandate private payers to reimburse for telehealth, and reimbursement fee schedules vary from state to state. In addition, families with third-party reimbursement face the challenge of additional costs related to technical hardware repairs. Once again, while telehealth cost is more efficient and some payers reimburse, individuals may still find technology cumbersome, complicated, or not user-friendly. Sanders, 2012, attempted to conduct a study on telehealth. However, throughout the trial, many people began to withdraw. The majority of individuals declined or withdrew from his telehealth trial due to past technical complications across other devices, along with other reasons. Sanders, 2012, proceeded to conduct interviews to investigate the other reasons people dropped from the study. He noted more detailed information and time may be required for training. Furthermore, many people reported additional concerns with identity theft and overall hesitant to change high-valued existing services. For example, participants voiced concerns with installed telehealth equipment perhaps jeopardizing the current healthcare services. These issues raise a concern with lack of service, disregarding core ethical principles, respecting autonomy, and according dignity, along with violation of Compliance Code 2.0, behavior analyst responsibility to clients. In regards to HIPAA, even though HIPAA has security requirements, the current laws do not sufficiently cover the telehealth environment. There are still many privacy and security risks. According to Hall and McGraw, 2014, clients and even service providers are not able to control information flow in tele-ABA. It is possible that a breach of confidentiality or theft of health information can still occur when staff install an unauthorized software or when hacking occurs from an outside source, bypassing the security measures. Mobile apps, which may be financed by third-party advertisers, are required to share information about app users. As tele-ABA allows service providers to cross state lines to provide services, there will be difficulties related to monitoring provider misconduct due to state licensing issues. These risks violate the compliance codes of 2.06a in regards to clients' confidentiality, as well as code 2.07a and 2.07b, whereby records are no longer in confidentiality and information is disclosed in telepractice process. Privacy risks also occur when sensitive information about the household activities is inadvertently collected during the telepractice. Even though authentication and data encryption are in place by the service provider, the one end of the client's communication mode, such as the client's cell phone, may not be secured. For example, a security password may not be installed on the cell phone. Even as clients have given informed consent, they often do not fully understand the privacy policies. By relying on consent forms, weak privacy protection can result from clients are not able to make informed choices about them. These situations weaken the adherence to compliance code 8.05a, whereby the security and limitations of the electronic media is acknowledged. Therefore, tele-ABA still poses serious privacy and security risk with inadequate policies to govern the tele-ABA ecosystem.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jessica. I would now like to pass it back over to Min to talk about how tele-ABA is still a great choice as a treatment method.
Well, thanks, Mary. Well, even though more reimbursement has been coming from Medicaid, there is actually progress made in the reimbursement from the private payers. The National Conference of State Legislatures 2016 states that currently 32 states and the District of Columbia have telehealth private payer laws, some of which will go into effect in 2017. In at least 23 states and the District of Columbia, according to the American Telemedicine Association, both coverage and reimbursement are comparable to in-person services. In the research study by Lindgren 2016, treatment acceptability were consistently high and did not differ in all three groups of in-home therapy, clinic-based telehealth, and home-based telehealth. There were no major issues of technology disruption or complications. Telehealth is thus possible where clients are sufficiently trained and informed with the technology tools. Over to you. All right, and in regards to protecting the privacy of clients at both ends, other than staff of the service providers, clients should also be trained in security protocols such as password management, information management, and computer monitor placement. Also, it is the duty of service providers to help the clients understand the details in the informed consent to ensure informed choices of the client before delivering the tele-ABA services. So I have.
Thank you, Min. Thank you, Jessica, for sharing those great points on cost and accessibility and privacy. We're going to turn it now to Courtney and Kayla, and they're going to talk about treatment fidelity and other things that they're going to discuss.
Thank you, Esmeralda. So I will be discussing treatment fidelity, staff training, and client benefits. If behavior consultants are going to use tele-ABA to deliver behavioral services, it is important that we equip parents, teachers, and other professionals to do so effectively. With the growing incidence of autism spectrum disorder, it is our job as behavior consultants to seek out ways to test aspects such as treatment fidelity when using tele-ABA. According to Ingersoll and Weiner 2014, there is not much growth in the areas of evidence-based treatments for autism spectrum disorders. And so pressure increases on behavior consultants to provide access to ABA. Tele-ABA is a delivery method that ensures that every person and family have access to behavioral services. Using this new and growing delivery method of tele-ABA, people such as parents are able to be actively involved in the client's treatment. They are noted to be the most influential people in their lives, according to Braun and Wolfberg. Parents using this method of tele-ABA have the ability to access consultation, resources, feedback, questions, etc., potentially 24 hours a day in order to provide and implement an individualized behavior change program, according to Ingersoll. What is encouraging in the Gibson article was information stating that the use of Skype is used by over 370 million users, and it is accessible through PC, Windows, or Mac, and requires no cost. The opportunities for 24-hour access to services or resources can be crucial in dealing with families living in remote areas who otherwise would not have access to ABA. Involving BCABAs, RBTs, and especially parents, it is our duty, according to Ethics Code 4.05, to equip individuals involved in treatment implementation. After equipping parents in this case, it is our responsibility to test treatment fidelity. Although tele-ABA is a relatively new delivery method, there are systems in place to test treatment fidelity during and after parent training. In tele-ABA, treatment fidelity can be tested using methods such as interactive exercises, homework assignments, quizzes, and observation, according to Ingersoll. These types of methods require that behavior consultants have some sort of ranking system in place prior to testing treatment fidelity. In the Ingersoll study, parent treatment fidelity was increased from the start of training, and most parents increased treatment fidelity to a meaningful degree. Although tele-ABA is an internet delivery method, in the Gibson 2010 article, user satisfaction was recorded that parents prefer more immediate feedback on implementation rather than the possible delay in face-to-face consultation that is used in in-person ABA. The Gibson study mentioned that they experienced behavior consultants doing in-person therapy can be tempted to give ideas and solutions that may not be useful in real-world issues because the BCBA left after the consultation. In regards to families living in remote areas, in-person ABA comes with that territory of behavior consultants not being able to stay for long periods of time due to cost and travel. Users of tele-ABA also noted that this delivery method allowed for more of a bigger picture because the behavior consultant was able to observe many times and collect more data as opposed to only a couple of times, according to Gibson. This is an important note because a family living in a remote area might only get a few face-to-face consultations with a behavior consultant using in-person ABA. Hopefully this information is encouraging and a step in the right direction for behavior consultants to provide evidence-based behavioral services for families who would not otherwise have the option.
Hi guys, I'm Caitlin. Courtney, I think you bring up some really good points, but I did want to mention some concerns that I had regarding tele-ABA. So although tele-ABA is a delivery method for clients and their families who could be facing challenges due to living in remote areas, the benefits for the clients and families with in-person ABA, I believe, really far outweigh the tele-ABA's possibilities. For the parents, when the therapy sessions are done in person and the therapist is able to take charge, the entire family can reap the benefits, and the benefits of the therapist being there in person include they get to use their own materials, data efficiency is increased, therapists can give immediate feedback, and questions and concerns can be immediately addressed, which they cannot be a lot of times with tele-ABA. With in-home therapy, the opportunities to train the parents in real time is provided. And when using in-home or center-based therapies, parents can be trained on really complicated methods such as naturalistic teaching or NET and DTT, which is discrete trial training, with the certainty that clients' treatments are clear and effective. The therapist is also able to is also given the opportunity to understand the client's behaviors through these methods and being able to observe the behaviors in the client's actual environment. There is much more opportunity for the behavior consultant to get a true picture of the behavior with in-person ABA, and the opportunity for effective prompting strategies is also something to be looked at and can be implemented with in-person ABA, whereas they really can't be with tele-ABA. Through in-person ABA, the client is able to practice social skills by interacting with other individuals other than just family members, due to the fact that if they're in a center, then there's other peers around. When it comes to treatment fidelity, in order to implement an effective treatment for a client, which they are entitled to, and that the behavior analyst has to has an ethical responsibility to provide, a BCBA must be certain that the treatment is being implemented as written and that the staff or caregivers are properly trained. I do have some concerns about the skills or abilities that the parents or caregivers would have and what kind of background education they have in order to make them qualified to implement these ABA interventions, which, as a lot of us know through going through school or working in this field, can be really complicated and in-depth and require a lot of constant training and questions and coaching. The BCBAs and RBTs receive a lot of training in order to be able to implement these treatments correctly, yet these parents have nowhere near that amount of training as these professionals. In Ethics Code 1.03, which is maintaining competence through professional development, BCBAs are required to go through rigorous classes and seminars in order to keep up and learn new skills. These parents will need to be fluent in computer programs as well, such as Word and Excel, and we may not be able to know whether that's the case in tele-ABA. So that would be something that would need to be established, is how fluent they are in Word docs and Excel, so that we know how they will be taking the data. In the Stommer 2014 article, they stress the importance of extensive training and coaching needed in order for the staff to implement the program correctly and in a way that would have a positive outcome for the clients. In this particular study, the interventions turned out to be successful strictly due to the fact that the teachers were able to be prompted throughout the sessions and ask the trainer questions on the spot and in the moment. This shows how important in-person therapy is because tele-ABA cannot give that same level of coaching or training. The Bryson 2014 article supports the importance of direct observations of target behaviors. This is necessary in order to help individualize the treatment plans for each client, since every client is different. Indirect assessments are not always the most reliable assessment, and oftentimes that is the assessment tele-ABA has to rely on. Indirect assessments can give a misrepresentation of the target behavior, and if that's the case, the BCBA would be writing a program that doesn't fit that behavior or that client, and which in turn would not be effective, and which would be unethical. With direct assessments, BCBAs can clearly see the behaviors and the antecedents and consequences to those behaviors. Tele-ABA makes this difficult to do and may confuse the BCBA even more. When it comes to concerns about treatment fidelity and tele-ABA, the ethics codes that may be violated are 3.01 behavior analytic assessments, 4.03 individualized behavior change plans, 5.03 supervisory delegations, and 5.04 designing effective supervision and training. Due to all these factors I have mentioned, I have some concerns about tele-ABA's ability to guarantee and measure treatment fidelity, and some concerns about parents' ability to implement a beneficial program to their children.
Thanks for sharing, Caitlin. I think having parent training concerns are really valid, and hopefully with what I'm going to say next, I can share a little bit more detail about what goes into parent training. In order for parents to be effectively involved in their child's treatment, it is the responsibility of the behavior consultant to ensure that treatment fidelity is met. Otherwise, if behavior consultants allow behavioral services to be implemented not showing treatment fidelity, he or she would be breaking code 2.09a in regards to the client having the right to effective treatment. Using tele-ABA, as with any delivery of ABA, there must be a system in place to test treatment fidelity. The Ingersoll 2014 article demonstrates a plan to test for treatment fidelity among the parents trained. Treatment fidelity here was tested using quizzes before and after training, as well as behavior consultants observing parents during engagement with their child and ranking implementation on things such as modeling, prompting, reinforcing, linguistic skills, etc. In turn, feedback was readily available either immediately after the session or scheduled for later. In the Ingersoll 2014 article, there were multiple ways to get in contact or obtain feedback from the behavior consultant through methods such as email, teleconferencing, or by phone. Being equipped to deliver therapy is a must. The training required in the study by Ingersoll indicates that there are extensive training programs available for parents provided by behavior consultants. In this particular study, there were lessons that required homework assignments, reflection questions, practice for plans and using specific techniques, and reflection about the possible challenges and successes of those plans. A big exercise for parents that I thought was significant were exercises using short clips, and the parents being trained were having to indicate whether he or she thought that the adult in the video implemented the technique right. Feedback was given throughout each training session, as well as observation sessions, and even extra feedback when asked by the parent. This is a great plus for using tele-ABA. As you can see from this article, there can be systems in place in order to test for treatment fidelity. Ethics Code 5.03 speaks to a delegation of implementation by someone who implements services competently, ethically, and safely. It is the behavior consultant's duty to make sure that this delivery method is being carried out by parents in this way. Like any steps taken by behavior consultants, it is important to have these types of systems in place beforehand to adhere to ethical codes 4.02, 4.03, and 4.05 that states an individualized behavior change program needs to involve the clients, be unique or specific to that client, and have in writing the objectives for the individualized behavior change program. Upholding these codes helps the parents involved to provide effective behavioral services. As you can see, behavior consultants have put systems in place and have been able to increase treatment fidelity to a meaningful degree when implemented by parents using tele-ABA.
Thank you, Courtney. In conclusion, with the high increase of autism diagnosis, with the high increase of technology, and with the low amount of ABAs that are available, tele-ABA offers an alternative for an intervention. This concludes our debate, and we will now turn it to Mary to start the questions.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. It's so great to hear that both tele-ABA and in-person ABA are great methods to choose when deciding on a treatment method for people with autism. Min, I'd like to start off by asking, how would a parent participating in tele-ABA therapy handle a child engaged in SIBs?
Well, I think it is crucial that treatment for self-injurious behaviors be immediate, direct, and swift, and least restrictive. Well, it would be ideal if a combination of tele-ABA and in-home therapy be used. An initial behavior assessment can be conducted in-home by the BCBA to determine the function of the child's SIB and his environment. When the BCBA encounters the child's SIB, he or she can use immediate chain interruption procedures like blocking to stop the SIB, and in the process, he or she can model for the parents. Subsequently, the rest of the intervention can be carried out via tele-ABA, like didactic trainings of chain interruption, as well as teaching of replacement behaviors like functional communication training. Well, video demonstrations, role-playing of parents with feedback can be given by the BCBA. Fidelity checklists of the steps to be taken when SIB occurs can be prepared beforehand for the parents so that they know what to do when SIB occurs. An example of a checklist could be, like, for example, 1, use chain interruption to stop the self-injurious behaviors. Allow the child to calm down before prompting the child to use functional communication training to request for what he or she wants. And the BCBA can give feedback in real time if SIB occurs and parents need prompts to carry out the procedure. That's all I have.
Thank you so much for sharing, Min. I'd like to now pass it over to Courtney and ask, how does a BCBA know if these interventions are being implemented correctly when using tele-ABA?
Thanks for the question, Mary. The Ingersoll 2014 article talks about a plan to test for treatment fidelity among parents or any caregiver implementing the intervention. Treatment fidelity in this study was tested by utilizing quizzes before and after training, as well as behavior consultants observing parents during engagement with their child and ranking that implementation on things such as modeling, prompting, reinforcing, imitation, linguistic skills, etc. This is a big concern for us as behavior consultants because these specific techniques are used very often, and parents should be properly trained to use these techniques as well. So after training in these areas, feedback was given either immediately after session or scheduled for later. The feedback can be given by email, phone, teleconferencing, or some other communication method. This study shows that there are extensive training programs available for parents provided by behavior consultants, which can help ensure that parents have the amount of knowledge they need in order to implement the treatments correctly.
Min, I had a question. Who is responsible for providing the technology needed for tele-ABA?
Well, the client's family is responsible for the technology equipment on the client's site. And the basics include a computer or laptop with a large monitor, speakers, microphone, and webcam, high-speed internet access, software like video conferencing system and screen sharing program, antivirus software, secure firewall, and data encryption features. Well, there's also a possibility to look into reimbursement from insurance and other grant opportunities.
I'm sorry. Courtney, I had a question. How does the BCBA control extraneous variables?
Well, really, there is no way for any BCBA to control 100% of extraneous variables. The best thing the BCBA can do is to ensure they are giving the caregivers, staff, or parents proper training and education to be proactive and aware of against extraneous variables. Some extra helpful things the BCBA can do is also note under the graphs and in figure captions about any extraneous variables that could be affecting their data. With both in-home and tele-ABA, or in-person and tele-ABA, communication should be open and frequent in order to discuss extraneous variables and implement a plan to reduce those.
Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. I hope the viewers enjoyed looking at our debate between tele-ABA and in-person ABA and how both methods you really can't go wrong.